'Twas the day before Christmas, sometime around 8, when I said to myself, I will catch a milk snake. So I went and I searched and I hiked a long way, but it was just too cold, and it wasn't the day. So instead, I figured we'd look for an absolute classic, a canebrake rattlesnake. Today, we're going to be exploring some drained cypress swamp here in South Louisiana, and hopefully coming across one of my favorite local vipers. While these animals don't particularly like cold weather, they can still be found above ground in these more wetland areas. At this point, I've handled hundreds, literally hundreds of canebrake rattlesnakes. And aside from diamondback rattlesnakes, they are most certainly one of my favorites. They can be seen hanging around logs, burrows, and anywhere that a large rattlesnake can end up hiding. I've always wondered if I could just kind of look up and see a snake or something hanging out in here, because there's lots of holes, there's lots of places for them to live, and I see lots of other reptiles in trees like this. I haven't seen one hanging out like that just yet. It's very cool though. Whenever you get into these big old growth areas, you sometimes do get hollowed out trees, and it is just, you can stand up in them. I'm not going up there, but like, even with it dipping into the 30s, animals are still out, especially amphibians, but also lots of mammals, like this armadillo. Typically, reptiles spend their winters hunkered underground, but with the rain that we've gotten, they can also be seen hanging around hollowed logs and other protective shelters. And with a bit of searching, we ran up on a big one, and he was grumpy. Holy smokes. Well guys, this is a very grumpy canebrake rattlesnake. Now the only reason I can even be this close, one, because it's winter, but secondly, because I've got a tree in the way of me and him, because he can strike a pretty good distance. This is a very nice sized canebrake. Now these snakes don't always go underground here in South Louisiana like they normally would in other areas. This is due to high water tables, and it's actually rained a lot in the last 24 hours. Whether he got flushed out of a burrow or just never went into one, I'm not sure. But this snake is heated up well enough to be rattling and trying to strike, so I gotta be careful. Now this is a big cypress log. This is what this snake is hanging out in, and this is what I would typically imagine canebrakes hanging out in the springtime, in the summer, and even in the fall. And in the wintertime, you're typically not gonna see that. He's not happy. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is pull him out to where y'all can see him better. But notice, before I even pull this snake out, how camouflage it is. Obviously you know he's there now that we've seen him and that he's rattling. That's a pretty camouflaged snake, even for being well over 4 foot. I mean, that's a camo snake. Hello, buddy. You are not happy. Ooh, that is a big cane. Hey, bud. I think rather than pulling him fully out, I think this is plenty enough for y'all to be able to see this snake. Now, this is a pretty big snake. For how cold it is, I'm actually very impressed with how grumpy he's being. He is ready to strike. And if you see, he's probably not going to get his full strike length in, and that's why I can be this close. Now, canebrake rattlesnakes do have deadly venom, but they are one of the more mild rattlesnake species. Typically, when people get bit by this snake, it's either when they're trying to kill it or when they step on it directly. And that's one of the biggest concerns you got to have whenever you're in canebrake territory is, are you going to step on the snake? And as you can see, they're very camouflaged. Those chevron patterns and all this mixed hardwood biome, it can be very camouflaged. Wow, that is quite the snake, and sometimes they will not stop rattling. The last few that I've caught have actually not rattled one bit, even when fully messed with. This guy is grumpy. He does not want to be messed with, and that's why, I wanted to pull him fully out and have him out, but this snake might be a little bit too rowdy to kind of fully stretch out and all that good stuff. It is incredible that you can find these snakes in the wintertime, but hey, that's just Louisiana for you. They are still out, and they are still semi-active. While they're probably not going to be hunting as much, they are still here. Now, canebrake rattlesnakes across their range can actually have many different types of venoms. They call it A, B, and C type. Here, I'm not sure what type we have. I'm pretty sure it's just A type, but it can have cytotoxins, neurotoxins, and hemotoxins. And that makes treating the bites of timber rattlesnakes, it can make it very locality specific. Meaning, if you get antivenom from one area for the snake, it's typically going to be antivenom that is made from snakes from that particular area, which is really crazy. We're still studying a lot having to do with these snakes' venom, but it is really cool. Now, these aren't the largest rattlesnake species by any means. That would easily go to the diamondback, but on average, these guys can get pretty big. I've seen them upwards of 5.5 feet, and they can be monstrous. They can be about twice as thick as this one is here, and it's beastly. It's not a snake you want to be messing with for sure. I know they're different dispositions, and I know for a fact this one's grumpy. This is not one to be like, oh wow, it's super sweet, it's super calm. And don't get me wrong, these are a pretty chill snake compared to many others. This is not one I want to mess with, and that's what we're going to do as soon as we're done filming him, is just let him go and let him on his way. Wow, what an incredible snake. And they've even got a light green tinge to him. I mean, this is just a grumpy canebrake. And I don't blame him, you know, obviously, I'm coming and messing with him, I got this big hook, but canebrakes are definitely not out to get you. They're actually one of the least confrontational rattlesnakes that I know. If they can get out of your way, they definitely will. And being as it's so cold right now, he just doesn't have the energy to do that. He's just gonna be chilling here and just telling us to leave him alone. And honestly, for how cold it is, the fact that his rattle is even going is just impressive. So, really incredible snake. Really glad we're getting to show you guys this animal on Christmas Eve of all days. Just a really special thing to see down here. Really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, consider subscribing and check out some of our other canebrake rattlesnakes that we've filmed in the past. That's all for today. We will see you guys next time.